You are not going crazy. What is going on right now is actually insane. And it's really frustrating that most people are kind of going about their day, but that's the way that capitalism works, you know? We can't all just stop working. We can't all just, yes, like we understand that things are messed up and that the system is set up the way they are, but a lot of people have children, right? A lot of people have medical conditions. A lot of people have debt. Um, Debt is like a really big, crushing, thing that is impacting a lot of people. Something that I saw a video recently of a person from ICE being interviewed about, yeah, like why do they do this work? And he said that it was because of debt. He was trying to get out of debt. Um, And that makes a lot of sense. I think about how much money people owe, credit card companies, right? Schools, right? Student loans. I think about mortgages. I think about renting. Like, things are really expensive, right? And because of the working class never really getting an education about how to spend money, I think about credit cards, right? Credit scores. I think about taking out loans. Like, we don't really learn how to do it. Like, I'm talking about like not like rich people or people who are, generationally wealthy, but I'm talking about people who just don't know, right? Like, you don't learn that in school. They don't teach that in school, right? They don't teach you about taxes. And again, this is set up on purpose. Capitalism is the way that I'm talking about this specific country. Yes, capitalism rules the world. But so, in order to move out, you need a credit score, right? In order to have a credit score, you need a credit card, right? In order to have a credit card, you need an address, right? So, you have to meet certain requirements to eventually do the things that you want to do, right? And not just the requirements, you also have to create money, right? And so I get really frustrated sometimes, for example, with the Latinos that I mean, personally, I know them too, right? The immigrants who um, look at what's going on in the country in terms of like Venezuelan refugees and like other South American refugees coming. I personally know some people who are like, well, why do these Venezuelan immigrants get all of these like resources when like I, came here and like I didn't get any of that and like we get all this bad rep, but then these people come and like get resources, right? And I want to address this specifically because it's been on my mind a lot. I volunteered at a shelter a couple years ago when the surge of the migrants from Venezuela were coming, and I think it's just really unfair the way that it was painted in the media, and specifically the media, right? The media is what supports this capitalist agenda, right? The media supports the government, right? Because it's paid, because it's good for them, it's good business to scare people, okay? But the media really painted these Venezuelan immigrants as kind of like entitled. I don't know. I don't know if they were. I don't know how they, but I know for sure, right? Like many South American countries, like Mexico, Central American, right? A lot of people came to United States and Canada because of like the impact that the United States had on those very countries, right? If you don't know, right, the history of our country I say our country, yeah. Our country um, has historically and is continuing to exploit countries, right? So, what they do to different countries all across the world, I'm talking about Latin America right now, what they do is like go to these countries, right? They see resources that they want, right? And then they exploit that. Oh, and by the way, right? They give them loans, right? There's the IMBF, the international bank. I learned about this in school. So they exploit them, right? They like charge them for the very resources that they have, and then they give them loans, right? Um, and the thing is, right, that governments who are in power in general, right, are generally corrupt, like the one we have. And so, who is at the bottom? Who gets you know taken advantage of? The people, right? And this is something that's been going on forever. So when Venezuelan migrants come, right, um, it's convenient for the media, for the government, um, Democrats and Republicans. It's convenient for them to use them as a scapegoat, to use them as kind of like a fuel for migrants, that have been here for a while, for white people, for black people, for all its citizens. It's convenient for them to paint them as entitled, to paint them as people that come and just take. It's convenient to use them as that, to use that as a kind of like a justification for the things that they're going to do, right? And this has been set up for a long time, right? Um, and this is all related again to education, right? If you weren't educated to question authority, if you weren't educated to question our government, like then you wouldn't even like think, right, that this has all kind of like a back story. And so I guess my point today is like we have to question things, and I can do some more in-depth talks, but I just really want to get on here and say something because um what's going on is really wild, and I feel like there's no yes, there are community members like doing amazing work, and I love that. I want to get definitely more involved too. Um, but I think this isn't just like one organization is going to do this. I think it's like a collective, like for sure, and not just organizations, right? I'm talking about like person to person, neighbor to neighbor, friend to friend, relative to relative. We need we need to create strong bonds between people, because strong bonds between people creates an opportunity for us to trust in each other, because the way it's looking, things are going to go it's going to get worse, right? And humans in their nature, I think, I study psychology, right? um, in general, I feel like humans are more good than bad, right? In general, humans care. A lot of people are compassionate, right? Like they see someone needing help and a lot of people stop. Some don't. Let's not judge. What my point is that we need these strong bonds. We need them if we're going to get out of this, right? It's clear that our country is going through something really um intense, like like all across the globe, right? Like countries, like the people, workers are rising up. They're rising up against the elite, against the rich people, against the bosses. And we have to, because like if we don't, then it's just going to get worse, right? And so if you don't want to go out and protest, if you don't want to do you know the kind of work that people make it look like it is to be in a revolution, creating friendships, creating strong bonds between people is revolutionary. Leaning on each other is revolutionary. Don't you ever think that you're not making a difference as long as you are having a bond with like people outside of your circle, like really neighbors, community organizations, like church. These bonds, these specific relationships are connected, right? So if you're connected to your church, group, right? Your group, they are connected to other people, right? And so what capitalism does is it makes us feel isolated, but if we create bonds and we assume, right, that we are all trying our best, right? We have to trust each other. It's hard, but it's not hard figuring out who is on your side and who is not. It's very clear. It's very clear when people care about each other. It's very clear when people care about workers. You know, it's very clear when people don't care. It's very clear when people just care about money. Although maybe to some people it's not. But, you know, let me tell you, in general, actually, no, I'll talk about that another time. But in general, right, don't think that you're not making a difference as long as you're creating bonds, as long as you are strong in your relationships. Um, if you're not, if you feel isolated, that's okay. It's okay because a lot of people are. I hope you, if you're watching this, you put a comment in the section. Maybe if you feel isolated. I definitely have felt isolated, but we need to reach out. I know social anxiety is a thing, um, but it's gonna take some time. But it's really important, I think, right now, to not isolate ourselves, and it's really important to keep going and, yeah, investing in our friendships and our relationships.